Hey everybody, welcome to Jet Live. I'm here with Barak Bard, founder of Bard Players. Um, as you can see in the background over there, there's a video camera, filmmaker extraordinaire. Um, he's got a lot of rabbits in his hat, and hopefully tonight we'll be hearing a lot about that. Have you ever done magic?
Um, it's funny you should ask. I considered having done video because I don't really know how it works. I know what buttons to push to make it work, but then it becomes magic.
Well, there you go. See,
To me,
magician.
it
He's
is
done
just
a
work.
lot of a lot of technology. Even this, what we're using right now, this is magic. Who'd have thought that it would be around just when we had this pandemic to be able to do this? So I don't know. We should call it miracles, maybe. For sure, the hand of God. You know, he's always watching. um, yeah. So Barak, how's it? How are you and Nicole? How are things?
We're doing fine. We have each other, and that's a help. I think you know about that. We don't go out. We're not going out. I go to the supermarket once, 1.5 times a week on average. I enter the pharmacy. We go for a walk around the neighborhood, run into occasionally some people, a little more people than before. Keep masks on, and we're putting it all out. And maybe before the week's over, I may go out. We may go out and do something else. Maybe in a week and a half, we might go a little bit further. Do Shavuot someplace else, if we esteem that we can. If we can, we don't.
Well,
And so we're reading plays. I'm reading plays. We're reading.
that's awesome.
Talking on the phone. Nicole is talking to her family in France. I'm talking to my brother and my daughter in Los Angeles and Texas, respectively. And we're making do.
Well, I know that you're not putting the mask on to cover that beard you got going there. That's not a Corona beard. You've had that for how many years?
I'll put it this way: Nicole and I have been together for 45 years, and she has never, more than that, and she has never seen my chin.
Wow, wow.
It was darker for many years.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen with with my chin after this. Dina loves my beard, so
Good.
somehow I always bring her into these. So
Is your
you
pulling on it yet?
Oh, I go like this now. I don't know if you noticed. I'm gonna embarrass him, but Natan Skop in our jet when we did Jet Live in the beginning, he was playing with his beard. So yeah, I've started that. um, so okay, so you actually were working on a play that was supposed to go up in a few weeks from now.
Yeah, we were in mid-June.
Mid June.
Yeah.
So what was your process? It obviously changed? I mean, you couldn't go live, but what did you try to do, and what were you doing to continue the process, to continue the creativity?
For a little while, a few times we tried to do Zoom, but if one person's computer is having trouble, it blocks up everything else. So we couldn't really develop a rhythm to do reading rehearsals. The first rehearsals are reading rehearsals. They should have been in my living room. Well, I was in this office and they were at their home. And then we tried phone, and we did that for a little while, and we realized this is no way to get going, especially when we don't know. Finally, we began to understand we don't know when we're going to open. We were going to open in June, and we had time in the normal course of events. We would have time to prepare this play.
Well,
So we put it to sleep. I'm in touch with the 4 actors, making sure everything is okay. It's not okay now, because now we find that we're not going to be able to open before the beginning of September, and one of our actors has to go back to Texas in in the beginning of September. So now I have to look for someone who can play a 50-ish year old woman who is still very young and beautiful for that age, who was a silent film star in some years past and is now a chief executive of a major Hollywood studio.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is a play that's called The Consul, the Tramp, and America's Sweetheart by John Morogello, who I hope is watching. It's a beautiful, it's funny, and it's serious. It takes place in 1941. I'm not going to tell too much about it. It takes place in 1939, before America is at war yet with Germany. And Charlie Chaplin, who is a character in the play, he's the tramp, wants to make a film called The Great Dictator. And the consul who represents Nazi Germany to Hollywood, to the studios, has heard about this film, and he doesn't want it made. Well, everybody knows that film got made. Most of us have seen it. So this is a story of how it got made in spite of the.
And it was really. I read it. I'm hopefully I'll be doing lighting with your production, and I read it, and I was blown away. It really is a beautiful piece, script, and I was also looking forward to seeing the actors that were working on it as well on stage. But I'm sure we have a great community. You've already reached out to a few people, and I'm sure that you'll have a cast when it's able to go up live. And really looking forward to it, because it really is really, really interesting.
The goal is to be able to open it in December. Part of it during Hanukkah. If that holds, so much the better. If it doesn't, well, there's always next year, and I'll try to keep the cast together. Yeah.
And it's 6 people in the. It's not even. It's like 5 people in the cast.
It's a cast of 4.
4. There you go. Even better. I'm sure you can get that up.
And I love Mary Pickford's secretary. It's a lovely role, cast by Heidi Friedman, who of course was with you in The God of Isaac.
Yep. She was my girl in The God of Isaac. Yep. Yeah. Chaya. And then I had Batya. And Shelley. Yep. Yeah.
And David Lincoln.
And David Lincoln and Daniel Fliegler.
Lincoln is the consul. It's supposed to be the consul in the one we got coming up. He was in The Statement, the first play that Ben Bard Players did in Jerusalem. Yeah. And David Lincoln is a marvelous actor. He can any character that he comes close to physically resembling, he's going to incarnate that character.
But he doesn't have plane rides anymore to learn his scripts.
Wouldn't that be nice if he didn't have plane rides to take him running off to America in his very work? He's supposed to do that. Yeah. But he has arrived back after a let's call it a business trip. His job, flying around America, talking to some people, and arriving back 2 days before we open, knowing all of his lines, remembering all of his cues. He's a phenomenon.
Yeah, much better than me.
And with God of Isaac, in which you were the Isaac character, David played 7 vignette parts, all of them totally different.
He was really great. If anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to write it in the comments. We'll be seeing it up here, and we can ask Barak. I'm going to ask you, Barak. Actually, now that you mentioned The Statement. David Lincoln being in the first play that you did. So what brought you to found Ben Bard Players? What's the story behind that?
Okay, let's go back. I didn't found Ben Bard Players. I just resuscitated the name in the first place. The Ben Bard Players, or Ben Bard Drama, was founded in the 1930s, just shortly after sound came into films. And the Ben Bard in this case was my father. Okay? Mm-hmm. I have something in common with your daughter and with Toby Trackman's daughter. We were all born in a trunk. Your daughter is the child of two theater people, you and Dina.
Yes.
My parents were both actors as well. Toby Trackman and Tammy had a kid right after he produced As You Like It with Tammy as Rosalind 5 months before she gave birth. That kid was born in a trunk. I like the phrase. I didn't even.
Born in a trailer for filmmakers, right? Born.
No, it can apply. Born in a trunk.
Born in a trailer.
However,
she was born in a pool. Leo Rose was born in a pool.
My father's main claim to fame after being in vaudeville and being in silent films was that he founded a school for actors in Hollywood in the 1930s when people were flocking to the city trying to get into the movies, and the movies needed actors. Dad didn't make so many stars. He made a few. Alan Ladd, Jack Carson, a few. I can name some names. It's not important. He made actors when Hollywood needed actors, and they were able to get jobs and jobs and jobs and make whole careers and retire on the Actors Fund retirement programs and everything. It was a world. And I grew up going to the plays, participating sometimes in the classes when I was a little older. I helped my dad with the classes. I taught the children's classes, and theater was a natural part of my life. This is not strange in Los Angeles, where we lived in LA. It wasn't in Beverly Hills or the Pacific Palisades. We lived in Sherman Oaks, a very nice section of town, not particularly rich. Everyone around us was somehow connected to the movies. There was a sound engineer lived next door to us, a scriptwriter down the street. Among others, and so it was quite a natural thing. I didn't know how special it was until I look back on it, and my goodness. In any case, as a young adult, my sister found herself in Texas after her first husband of the five finished his military service, and he got a job in Austin. And so she decided in Austin, Texas, she was going to do some theater teaching and produce some plays. And she asked my brother and me to come down there and help her. And this was the first time we'd been really away from LA, away from living with the family. And it was thrilling. In that year of 1963 and into 1964, we produced 7 plays.
7 plays in a year.
Plays. Actually, we had 5 play productions. 2 of them were double bills of short plays. We did The Typist and the Tiger by Marie Shisco. We did A Taste of Honey. We did I Am a Camera by John Van Druten. Which was based on Christopher Isherwood's Berlin Stories, which had become Cabaret, but it was a play, no music. I did Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf in that year with somebody else and somebody else's theater company in a bar as a reading. And we did some.
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Yeah, right. That was the year that Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf came out. It had made a splash in New York, and every little theater company around the whole USA was doing it. I hadn't seen it before. I hadn't heard of it, and suddenly I was on stage reading.
You had to get the rights?
Lynn Alice Carey, who was the producer at that time, got the rights. Sure, and we had to get the rights for all the 7 plays that we did. In our own little company. Actually, our little company did 8, but I had to go back to LA, so I never saw or got to see Subway to Silence. It was written by a friend of ours, Joan Beachley of Texas, and I'm in touch with her son right now, and I'm hoping he's going to be able to send me a script of it. I'd like to read it. I didn't get to see that.
And what was the company called?
The company was called Ben Bard Drama or Ben Bard Players. We used the name.
You use the name, your father used the name, and then you use the name in Texas.
Ben Bard Players of Austin, and now I've got Ben Ben Bard Players of Jerusalem, but I don't usually say of Jerusalem because it's what we got right now. But the thing is, soon after that, I was married and had a kid, and theater wasn't going to support that operation. So I got involved in various ways over the next 50 years. I got involved in audiovisual production, in television production, in video. I worked with Toby Hooper, the director who eventually made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In Texas, I did that. It was his first film, a short film. He got a budget for it. And this was the first job I had in something that had to do with a camera, put it that way. I had everything to learn. He made Texas Chainsaw Massacre in spite of the fact that Ron Perryman, his cameraman, and I and several other friends looked at the treatment that he had on. We said, Toby, you can't make that film. It's awful. 12 years later, I was in France by that time, and he had made the film and had won an award at the Avoriaz Fantastic Film Market or whatever that was, festival. And I saw that film and I understood what he was getting at. It was such an exaggeration that it was a parody. It was not blood and guts. It was scary. Toby loved scary films, but it was a parody. And lots of imitations, lots of films imitated that, but they put in real blood and guts and they thought it was cool. But I stand corrected. Toby should have made that, and he did. And it put him on the map.
And sometimes that's all we got to do. Keep putting it out there, and you're gonna say no. Miriam says Hamlet was the Danish Dagger Massacre.
Yeah.
So it started before the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
In any case,
yeah.
In any case, all of that, I did a lot of crew work. I did a lot. I learned a lot of tricks. Button pushing and what goes on to make audio visuals, whether television production or video or whatnot. Eventually, that first marriage, by the way, didn't last very long, but we're still friends. And I have a very grown up daughter and 2 grandchildren living in Austin, Texas. And I do hope they're looking at this now. I warned them about it. But meanwhile, other things came up in my life, and one of them was that I had to put some meaning onto the Jew label because everybody in America has a label. You know, it's either ethnic or religious or mixtures of all. Everybody's got a label, and it was nothing but a label. I was a Jew. I knew nothing, absolutely nothing about what it is to be a Jew. So along about 1969, shortly after the Six-Day War, as you can imagine. I began to wake up to it, and it was time to go to Israel the first time. And while in Israel, I began to explore what it is to be a Jew, and I'm still exploring it. I happened to meet a young lady from France, actually born in North Africa, but French and Sephardia, and amazingly beautiful and amazingly meaningful person. We are still together now. She's in the living room.
Is she watching this?
No, we'll screen it for her later. Okay. I know you're recording it, and we'll screen it for her. We lived in France, in her country, for a very long time, 28 years. I worked a lot in television production there. Eventually, I worked in video production. Eventually, she and I formed our own company. And we made some documentary films, of course, some client films, and we made a couple of documentary films on Jewish history, Jewish French history, that we're very proud of. Eventually, we had to put our money where our mouth was, and we made Aliyah 20 years ago. And I continued doing video for clients, documentaries for clients, and documentaries that we wanted to do. And all that went very, very, very well. And
that's how we met.
Yeah, eventually about 7 years ago, this is how you and I met. I had gone to see a Shakespeare performance of which one was it? Oh, I'll get back to it in a minute.
There's been a lot of them. We can name all the Shakespeare shows.
The next year I went back, hoping that I could talk them into letting me be their videographer, and that worked. And that was Henry III, Richard III.
Richard III.
Richard III, fine, really fine. And you were working crew on that.
Sort
you
of.
were involved. I know you couldn't be really involved because it was just before you were getting off to New York.
Yeah.
To some actor studying, but you asked me to do something. You asked me to help you with video. You want to talk about that?
Do I want to talk about that? Well, it was Richard III, and I happened to. I just had finished the army, and I was going to study acting in the States. And when I was in the army, there was a drive-by rock throwing incident, and afterwards I found out about the trial that was happening in the case, and I contacted, and I saw an article that I wasn't so impressed by. I felt that it wasn't really saying the correct thing about the incident that happened. So I asked Barak. I introduced myself, and I told him about that I wanted to make a short film about this, and you were so generous and said sure, and we spent 3 hours.
It looked like fun, so I wanted to do it. I spent 3 hours.
Yeah. I wrote out a short script. I picked up watermelons, and we went somewhere in Modi'in with a car, and we reenacted a lot of this.
Had you throwing big rocks very hard at watermelons to show how watermelons can shatter, but you couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, and you got a great throwing arm, but your accuracy was really
like everything in film. There was editing done. Barak, you did an amazing job with that, and I think it cemented our relationship. And a few years later, when I moved back to Israel after my acting, producing, learning career in the States happened, I came back and I got offered to be a production manager on a project, and you came on to make video for that. So it's been a wild ride.
And since then, every year I've been the videographer for Theater in the Rough. I call them the Ruffians, but I think I'm the only one that does that. They're marvelous. They've done some beautiful, beautiful productions. And I've done fewer and fewer video works since then, because everybody's got a camera these days, and it's a hard job doing video. So I mostly only do Theater in the Rough and occasional little things that come up.
And then you founded Ben Bard Player. You refounded Ben Bard Players in 2017.
France, and picked up a language. By the way, I had failed in college. I had learned French rather well, and Nicole is very picky about accuracy in French, about good French. I learned it rather well, and so we have a lot of French friends here in Jerusalem. And there is a retired doctor who has written a few plays. His name is Claude Salaman. And I saw a play that he had written that was produced in French by some people here. And I rather liked the play, and I told him so. It was called The Statement. It was called La Déclaration Une heure pour 10 Juifs, 1 hour for 10 Jews. Basically, it's about 10 Jews famous in their fields in Germany in 1940, whatever, who are prisoners of the Nazis. And they've all been brought to this place that we created on stage together. They are famous in their fields. So they were told, if you famous Jews will just sign a petition a statement saying that National Socialism, that is Nazism, is a superior philosophy for mankind and for the rest of mankind's history, superior to Judaism and its derivatives, Islam and Christianity. We will reward you, but it has to be unanimous. We will reward you by taking you to the Swiss border, where arrangements have been made for you to cross into neutral Switzerland, and we will even bring your families or what's left of them to join you. And that's it. And since they were assimilated Jews, had been German for generations, were proud to be German. They spoke German. They didn't speak Hebrew so much. They said, well, why not? Why not at least save ourselves? And even this petition is not going to help or hurt the Jews no matter what we do. Okay, except that one of them refused.
Yeah, one of them refused.
That's what made it such a powerful play. It was like 10 angry men, 12 angry men for it was
like the Jewish version. So you produced that in 2017. 2018?
2017, that's right.
2017.
I had to find 12 people and get them up on the stage.
And you did, and here's one of them. She says she's a ruffian.
And she deliriously delightful ruffian. Thank you, Miriam. Because Miriam I knew from Theater in the Rough. And I called her and I said, I've got a play that's got 12 people, 12 actors, and only one of them is a woman. And I think you could play that part. And she read a few lines that I'd sent to her on Skype. And I said, Miriam, that's your part if you want it. Just that easy.
Yep.
And she said yes. And she then gave me some other names who gave me more names. And it didn't take me long to find the actors. But the reason I was asked by the author to direct that play, and I hadn't done a play in 50 years. Of course, over those 50 years, every time I went to a play, I directed it in my mind because I couldn't help doing that. But I hadn't actually done it. And I didn't remember how I directed back there in Texas. And I remember that we always started around a table, we read the lines, and eventually we got on our feet. That's all I could remember. But you see, I had these 12 marvelous actors, and it began to flow. And I began to understand what I have to do as a director and what actors have to do. Those roles are different, and it just fell into place. And the first thing I learned was that don't expect the actors to immediately be the role the way you imagine it. In the first rehearsals, I saw none of them are doing it the way I imagine it. Now, what am I going to do? Say, no, I want it this way. This is the way I see it. You got to do it this way. I said, no, wait a minute. That's not going to get us anywhere. So I let them bring it to me, bring me what they want. And then, hello, Tutu, hello, dog. And then we shape it together. It's not the director's part to make the actors do what it is. It's the director's part to help the actor imagine the character. Imagine the actor has to become the character, but from what he or she is. Okay? And the director can smooth it over a little bit, but the director's job is to imagine the audience, to become the audience, even as the actor is becoming the character. And, each actor only has one character to be, except with people like David Cole Lincoln, who have 7 characters in the same play.
Right.
Each actor has to imagine the character. The director has 75 people minimum to imagine that he is, to imagine what that person is. 75 people are going to be in that room, or 250 or 1,000, whatever it is. And that's not an easy job, but it's more or less what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. So you've done a statement. You did The God of Isaac. You were going to do this, the console. I have the script here. And then and you helped. You helped out with JPT, Jerusalem Public Theater, with As You Like It.
Yeah, that was because Toby wanted to sign in with the there's
Right.
there's a group called a service called Barkaima, who is wonderful. They
They really are.
keep an eye on
Really
the
are.
budget. They keep us honest. They keep us legal as non-profit organizations. They are the non-profit organization that help us. I know you're with
Yep.
them now. Toby wanted to be with them right after Toby did the lighting on the statement, and he asked
Yeah.
me, "Can you help me? Can you help me get into Barkaima?" And I talked to Barkaima. They said we can't do it this year. So Barak, why don't you do it? Why don't you produce his play under your name?
Mhm.
So Jerusalem Public Theater, Toby's company, and Ben Bard Players got equal billing on his programs and his announcement, and I got a lot of honor. That's the best honor I ever got for doing nothing. You know?
Well, sometimes that's the producer's job. I just want to.
End of the last performance, he called me up. He go up on stage, and I'm up there smiling, thinking I didn't do anything, and I'm getting a lot of honor.
That's part of the job sometimes for these shows, to make sure that they get done. Even if you don't do anything, you still are making sure it gets done and it gets produced. So I just want to put some comments up here so you could see who's been watching.
Risa Soar, she's my neighbor just downstairs. Hi, Risa.
Okay. And then you've got here
Pam Beachley. Now, she is the daughter of the woman I mentioned before, who had written a play that my brother and sister produced. Pam is the daughter of Joni Beachley, dear friend from Texas at that time, and it's her brother that I'm also in touch with on Facebook. He was 15 years old when we were doing that. He's a very successful divorce lawyer in Texas with a fantastic sense of humor.
Wow, he got that fantastic sense of humor from being on stage and when he did the shows.
He was not in our plays, but I would prefer to think that we inspired him to do theater. He's done theater all of his life. He is a devout, I think, still Episcopalian. I know he's a Christian, and he has played. I know he played the rabbi in Fiddler on the Roof in a local Texas production.
Wow.
And he's going on doing theater, and I'm very glad.
Here's another rabbi from Fiddler on the Roof right here.
Daniel. Daniel was, yes, that's right. And Daniel was in both of the plays that Ben Bard Players has done in Jerusalem. He played a crazy poet, and he played 4 or 5 roles.
And he stepped onto that stool and made his announcement about anti-Semitism.
The crowd haranger for Never Again, for Jewish.
JDL.
Yeah, and he did it with
Pam says still working on stage, and then you've got here you got.
And John Morogello, who is, what a photo! Wow, who is the author of the Consul, the Tramp, and America's Sweetheart that we still hope to do.
I can see he likes silent film.
Yes, he also likes history. Without giving away too much, I know that he's working on a play that has historical characters. I cannot say anything more than that, and I really want to read that play.
Amazing, and he did a wonderful job with the Consul, the Tramp, and I have it right here. An America's Sweetheart, the Consul, the Tramp, and America's Sweetheart, and then you've got some family here.
My sister's boy, Kemper Kyle Bard. Yep,
there you go.
Yep, he's in Portland, Oregon right now. Yeah.
So you've been directing. You did film. You've pretty much been all over the place. Do you dance at all?
Only when no one's looking.
Yeah, you and Nicole. You guys in the living room. You push. Have you done that during this time? You just turn on some nice classic music.
As much as we can, and when it's danceable, we are not great dancers, but we enjoy the moving And we just giggle at each other and dance around the living room.
Huh. I mean, I remember coming over to your house a bunch of times for different reasons. The production meetings that we did with the Ghost of Mizrahi Bet Street, and then coming over for rehearsals, or even beforehand. And you would always there would always be really beautiful music playing in the background. So
it was given to us for our first wedding anniversary by Nicole's parents. That was 45 years ago, and it's still operating, especially these beautiful speakers. My phone is ringing, but it's Nicole will get it. There it goes.
I thought that was you were playing some.
We say
music.
Landline. We keep it there in case something. In case we need it.
Wow! You have a storied journey here. Wow! I'm so. It's so exciting from all the different. I've had different types of people, different people from different walks of life on Jet Live, but what I consistently hear from the older generation, I would say, or the much more attuned generation, because you've been through so much more than I have, for sure.
You'll be through.
Is theater? Theater has always been part of your lives.
Even when it wasn't theater, even when it was those other things.
Right. Well, it's still creativity, and I think that's something that I made these hashtags for Jet Live is it was stay home, stay creative, stay safe. But I took out the stay home because we're starting to leave our homes. But I still have it as stay creative, stay safe, because the creativity can be all different parts. Like you had a stage production company in Texas. You did film in France and here, and you were in LA. You've been all over the gamut of what theater is. It's so nice to hear.
Never Broadway or London, but yeah. I mean, it just sort of fell naturally.
And that film camera that you have right there is one of your first that you had?
It was the first serious video camera I owned. I bought it in France. We were given a budget to do a documentary film. We were asked to do a film on the subject of a Rav that had many disciples. He had founded more than a yeshiva. It was a whole community way out there outside of Paris. He was a very high gentleman, and he had recently died, and we were asked to make a film about him. And we had to, 4 of the people that we had to interview, who were had been his students and who were themselves Ravs, were living in Israel. So we had to come to Israel. And the person that asked us to do it was the producer of the project. He owned a video equipment rental house. And so he provided us with the equipment. He was Jewish, and he said, "This has to be done. This film has to be done." And I said, "Michel, but we have to, you're providing us with the camera, but that camera we're going to have to take to Israel for 4 weeks. Our daughter was here studying. We were going to spend some time with her. We weren't going to just run over to spend 2 days shooting and come back." And he said, "I can't let you have one of those cameras. That's a rental camera. I'm going to need it. I need all my rental cameras." So I said, Nicole and I discussed it. The budget on that film was the best budget we'd ever had. And with that budget alone, we could have bought that camera. That camera was expensive. Better cameras today are less expensive than that one.
Well, there wasn't iPhones lying around for people to take video with.
No. This and heavy, let me tell you. If we have our own camera, That means we can make the films we want to make without having to look for money to rent cameras and rent equipment. And eventually we'll get editing equipment. And, so we can start doing what we want to do. And she swallowed real hard and said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And that camera finished that film and another one for the same guy. And we brought it with us to Israel, and we used it until it died.
But it's still there.
Yeah, it's a museum piece. I can't just.
It started probably a really another part of your story. So thank you for sharing that with us. So we're gonna end here. Thank you everyone who joined in.
I want to tell you that I have a gift for you.
Me?
I have to get it to you. Well, it's really for your little girl.
Oh, oh, that is awesome. She needs those these days.
This was a baby's hat needed to be thrown onto the stage in the God of Isaac. And Heidi Friedman, who was off stage at that moment, would pick it up and throw it, and you would catch it on the fly.
Right. We put like a water in it or something.
On stage, a baby's hat had to come. So we had to put a rubber ball, sew a rubber ball inside so that it would fly right. The rubber ball's gone, and it's for Leah. It's for your little girl.
Thank you. We'll definitely be able to get that at some point. And it's the summer, so it's a great present. Thank you so much. So I'm just gonna let everybody know. Thank you very much for watching with us. Let your friends know that you can still see this video or any of the other interviews that have been done the past few months. I just made a really cool poster of all the different people that have joined us on Jet Live. And if you are an artist, if you are an artist or you have created something, let us know. We'd love to have more people join us on this fly on Jet Live. Tomorrow night we have two producers, artistic directors as well, I would say, of J-Town Playhouse, Jennifer Fleischer and Elisa Schaffman Land. And we have some really awesome people joining us next week, including a Next to Normal Jerusalem reunion Sunday. And in 2 weeks, we're going to have an award-winning producer joining us, an award-winning producer from Broadway joining us, who was part of the theater community here before she went on to New York. So looking forward to all of those, looking forward to Jet Live. And
all come out and go back to normal life. Keep on doing these. Try to keep on doing these, because this is marvelous. This is, there's no people like show people. They smile when they are low.
As we say in Hebrew, Bezrat Hashem. And that's all, folks. Thank you very much.
That's all.
Have a good night. Jet Live.